So, good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the course. Before the breaks in media literacy, new media literacy, we were talking about media convergence and how people kind of started using the internet in a very, and the media itself in a very convergent way, such as the American Idol, which got people into texting, voting, doing this, doing that, and the whole world became this culturally, socially, economically and technologically convergent sphere. That it was all started practically by the technological convergence, which actually merged together every single kind of function into one device, which is like the smartphone at the moment, which is a photo camera, a GPS, a laptop, a radio, whatever, like toy as well, and everything at the same time. So practically this is where we stopped. And I think in the last kind of portion, when in Teams we were chatting about, media convergence itself, we were kind of talking about the digital divide. It was coming along that like, okay, so many people got into texting and so many people got into this and that. However, some people are missing out on the whole thing. And this is what the digital divide is going to be kind of standing for. That some people are going to be included in this whole new media world and some people are not. And let's just take a look at what it means. I'm hoping that it works once again. Excellent. Okay. So, ladies and gents, it's going to be quite a rapid topic. And then next week we will take a look at security problems on the internet and how certain kind of things leaked and how it was problematic. This is what we're going to be closing it with. I just wanted to address this short and sweet topic in order to kind of prepare you for the final exam, which is also going to be including this one too. So the digital divide, it represents the gap that exists between those members of society who are users and those members of society who are non-users of digital devices. These devices actually mean computers, the internet, cell phones, anything that you can actually join the whole circulation of the smart process, smart living or smart area of life. And it is an economic but also a social problem of inequality as well. Those people who miss out on this one is going to be socially as well as economically, as well as technologically, as well as politically and in so many other spheres missing out on issues. Now, you must ask the question, like, why do people still miss out on this one? First of all, there will be two ways of digital divides. One of them is going to be, two ways you can miss out on this one. One of them is you don't choose to miss out, you have to. And the other one is going to be that you will pick not to take part in these processes. I will show it to you in a minute. The existence of the digital divide is a very serious threat on the information societies themselves. So the larger societies, the Western societies, are really much motivated to kind of erode and get rid of this gap. And it's not because they are so super kind. It's not like, oh, let me just bring my smart devices to your country, or let me just, provide you with internet penetration. It's not because of their pure heart. You must kind of see behind this. They also believe that practically the digital divide itself and full-on societies missing out on the smart world erodes competitiveness. So first of all, some countries will not take part in the competition of the economic world, and that's kind of bringing behind the whole economic world. The labour market opportunities, very importantly. You might be working in another country, or you would like to be working in another country, but that one is not a smart society, and therefore market opportunities are missing out. Reduces the knowledge-based economy, for sure, because these kind of countries or societies, they don't share their knowledge, and it's not up to the common knowledge creation. It widens the already wide gaps between the rich and the poor, for sure. The internet has made it just made the whole division between rich and poor much wider than it used to be, so it is necessarily a very, very serious threat. Threatens democracy and transparency. Yes, those countries who have got the internet but they block it, for example, let's say North Koreans, that one is going to be like, it's like second guessing whether democracy is going on, and we know that it doesn't, it's not. But in other societies as well, which are not transparent in their policy making, so many like civil rights activists and policy makers and big institutions are worried about the democracy they are having, or the democracy they are not having, practically. Weakens tolerance, mutual understanding, and respect for diversity. For sure, if we don't know what is going on in that society, we will just not be kind of tolerant or curious about that society, because we don't have any access to them. The lack of access is associated with much disadvantage in the financial area, educational area, the cultural resources, for sure. Age as well is going to be a very important meta. Ethnicity and income. So you will have shortcomings in all these areas. I mean, of course, your age and your ethnicity is also going to be a very, very important meta as far as the digital divide goes. Certain ages are going to be excluded. Certain groups, cultural groups as well, are going to be excluded too. The total elimination of the gap is basically impossible. So far it has been. So there are initiatives, of course, and I'm going to show them to you. But practically, the active populations, economically active populations, they have got a lot of interest in kind of making the other societies catch up. However, these supplies are not enough at the moment, and those countries which are struggling economically super hard, or they have got war on at the moment, or they have got so much economic lacking and financial lacking that drinking water is a problem. Of course, the internet is not going to be their basic problem, indeed. So practically, the gap, also in my opinion, it's not, at the moment, I don't think it's eliminatable. I don't think that it's possible. Let me show you some 2001 data, yes, and then we will go into 2020, how it occurred. So 29% of the total American, USA population was using the internet back then in 2001. 28% in Europe, 23% in East Asia, Russia, China, and all that jazz. So it was much smaller. 5% in South America, which is really, really little. And then Oceania was using 2% of Oceania, and the population was using the internet, and 1.5%. 1.5% in Africa. So you can tell that the different continents, they were much different, and the Americans, the Europeans will be the leading ones. I'm not sure that you're very surprised of this one, of course. And then later on, the Asian societies, they were catching up quite a bit this time, or with time. South America we still have got some parts of South America which is not an information society yet, as we have mentioned previously. Oceania and Africa, they are still struggling. 2020 data, this is coming from the 30th of September. It shows, I think it's crazy, that at the moment, the internet kind of penetration has grown quite a bit. You can tell that out of almost 8 billion people that there are on this planet, which is way too many, but there are, 5 billion people are using the internet. They are users. So this is already there has been a huge development, but 3 billion people are still outsiders to the usage of the internet. You can still see the differences if you see the penetration rates as well, that it's going to be North America, the leading ones, Europe, the second one. So 90% is North America, 87% is Europe. Asia has come up quite a bit. Oceania has come up quite a bit. It's just going to be good. But still, you can tell that 3 billion people, are missing out on using the internet, even in 2020. But a huge kind of development occurred if you see between this 2001 and 2020 data between in the last 20 years, there has been a huge development. Okay, so the US is the biggest info communicational development kind of mogul. There is no surprise behind it. Japan is leading in the development of mobile internet and also in robotization. Japan is excellent. We will learn about robotization next semester in virtual communication, and we will also learn about the sex robots, which also come from Japan. There's something there, I guess. Korea is the world leader of broadband connections, yes, for sure. And the UK has the highest rate of the digital TV diffusion in the world. Practically, these are the statistics I wanted to share with you. So the digital divide is widening and deepening still. So practically, it is not eliminated yet. So many people are choosing to be a part of this whole digital world, but still we can see that a very serious amount of the population, almost 1/3 of them, is not using it at the moment. It's widening in a sense that few people are very actively using the internet. So also like the fact that a grandparent signed up to Facebook and never touched it, that's like not an active user, of course. And deepening in a sense that the consequences for not being online is trivial for people living on the periphery. So, for example, if you or me, we chose not to take part in being online, you would lose your university status, I would lose my job, especially at the moment that we are online teaching. But if somebody else chooses to miss out on a periphery, or let's say that in some parts of the countryside, they will not have much consequences, right? So it's just not going to be as crucial to their work life or their life indeed. So the digital divide still keeps widening and deepening at the same time. Okay, now only about one half, yes, of the world's internet populations are going to be English speakers. So that's still quite a bit, of course, along with the United States of America, along with Australia, along with Britain and some parts of the world which are having English, these colonization parts as well, which have got English as a native language. But only about 3/4 of all websites are English. That's also interesting that not, of course, so many websites are going to be in other languages. But also, I'm not sure if you have any relatives who have got struggles with understanding the internet because of its English language. But this is also a trouble, and so many people miss out on this one because of language knowledge problems, and they're good at reading Hungarian news and at navigating, not Hungarian, your own language news, of course, or navigating online and doing stuff like that, but they will not be able to read international news and stuff like that. You can also notice how children, and probably yourself as well, because I did learn a bunch of things online in English as well, so a good amount of vocabulary, I think, can come from being online or watching films online and stuff like that. But still, like using the internet itself is just teaching you a lot of English as well. So it does have some positive sides and some negative sides as well. Okay, the concept of the digital divide can be separated into two parts. This is what I meant when I started off the lecture today. There is something we call a user divide and something that we call an access divide. So what is a user divide? Let's check it out. And what is an access divide? The user divide is practically referring to the fact that a user does not use the advantage of the facilities offered by the devices, and then he or she will be trapped in the other side of the digital divide, on the wrong side, of course, due to the operating divisions. So practically, the person itself chooses not to be online. This is going to be the smaller one, okay? So only 8% of this non-attendance comes from sheer disinterest. So, like, I'm too old and I cannot bother. I'm too young and I cannot bother. I cannot bother. Okay, so this is it. The user divide will practically show that a person chooses to stay out of this whole digital world because, of course, age will be the biggest impact. Or language, but mainly age, because every single nation will have some websites on their own language. So practically, the old age, majority of times, they will be talking about it, that like, I have got the TV, I have got the radio, it's completely enough for me, and I have got my calm life, I enjoy watching the news instead of reading them, it's fine, it's okay. This is the user divide, okay. Within Europe, 74% of language speakers were using the internet in 2015. You can see that the language itself is also a barrier. but still, like 74% who speak English will use the internet, and 19% of non-speakers will use the internet. So practically, it is also an important matter whether people will use the internet or not, if they speak English or not. In the same year, 4% of people above 60 were using the internet in Europe. So you can tell that the age is like even a bigger impact on the usage of the internet, while figures were much higher for the residents above 14 years of age, which is going to be 36%. So you can tell that age and language are going to be the main issues in the user divide, mainly age, but the language speaking itself is also going to be a matter of choosing to use or not. As far as education goes, this is also an important matter. Besides language and besides age, education levels are also going to be an important factor in taking part in the digital world or not. 68% for people with a degree, of people with a degree will be using the internet in 2015, 45% with a high school graduate, 13% for people with 8 grades of education will use the internet. So you can tell that the lower the education, the less motivation there is to be actively using the internet. Now, there is also the fact that those people who have got a degree or at least a high school diploma, they will be more likely to do intellectual jobs. And for the intellectual job, you will need to use the internet because there is very few jobs which is an intellectual one and you're not using any digital devices for that. Those people who are manual workers, having like 8 grades or less than that, they will not be extra motivated, or they will not be active users, because during the day it's not compulsory to be using any digital kind of tools, and maybe for recreational purposes later on they join Facebook or something in the evening and take a look at what happened there. But still, it's not going to be their primary source of income because they're manual workers. The other one, so you've had the user divide, and now let's take a look at the access divide. The access divide, of course, is closely related to the generally low levels of education, but rather to the extremely poor societies. So within the user divide, the user chooses not to take part in the digitalization. Within the access divide, the people don't have access to it because they have got problems bigger than the internet. Okay, war, drinking water, eating food, social security, this and that. And for that reason, it's going to be like the extreme poverty kind of countries which will have bad conditions for the infrastructures as well. Now, within Europe, we don't really find this. Within Hungary, for example, the internet penetration is 100%, so it's quite good, even in the countryside as well. Seems like only my house has got no Wi-Fi whatsoever in certain moments of the day, but it's 100% in Hungary. And the rest of the Europe is also the same, really. Apart from Europe, when we are talking about extreme poverty, we mean parts of Africa, we mean parts of India, we mean a lot of parts of South America, and these places where poverty is so extreme that the internet is going to be there, the bottom of the list on the problem list, and not the first thing to solve as a problem. So this is the access divide. Now, to reduce the access divide as well, various governmental and non-governmental programs were developed and operated. So they tend to do it that developed countries are going to the developing or non-developed countries and try to help them with devices as well. I will talk about that one in a minute. But also within Hungary, for example, I do know that the eHungary Point initiative, it established these telehouses as well. And also the government has got a program. I do know that my granddad, he's 93 years old. That's a lot of age, God bless him. And so he took part in a free kind of course, which was people at the age of 60 or above. And it was like a half a year, I think it was a half a year course for them. They were learning to use Microsoft Word, Excel, I'm not sure about the PPT, but they learned to send emails. They learned to attach files to those emails. At some point, I got like a bunch of pictures of flowers and cute things sent by my granddad to me in an attached file, and it was like the practice file. So that was really cute. And then the governmental program was offering those computers they were working with, these older people, 60 and 93. Of course, my granddad, he was the oldest in the group. And so they got those second-hand computers in the end. So they went to this half-a-term course. They were taught free. It was all governmentally financed. And then in the end, they received those second-hand computers they were working with, and they could take it home for themselves. And ever since then, my granddad had a computer. He could have, used it earlier or financed it earlier, but this was an excellent governmental initiative. And he wasn't motivated at the beginning because he didn't know what to do or how to do it. But they taught him how to do YouTube, and now he can search for songs and stuff like that. At the age of 93, I think that's a very, very good one. And he wasn't even motivated to get a computer by himself. But now that the government was teaching them how to do that and then giving them a computer, second-hand computer for free, it's very slow, but it is still working really fine. And granddad is quite slow as well, so it's okay, and then it's just fine. It's a very good initiative in my opinion. There was no significant improvement in terms of the reduction of the digital divide. Unfortunately, not many people were very super excited, even though the initiative was excellent. Not many people still use it because they're just the user divide practically. They were just not extra interested or They used other forms of media and they got used to that, and they were fine with that. Okay, so it seems to suggest that instead of the access divide, the user divide can be the reason with the high ages as well. What else can have an impact on the digitalization and partaking in that or not? The socioeconomic status is also one of them. The internet users are more likely to be well off and to be better educated than the non-users, as I've mentioned. The lower the internet penetration rate in the country, the more elite the online population will be. So even if it's a thin layer, it's just going to be super elite and very highly qualified and highly educated as well. And the lower the penetration, the better quality the content, the more literate the user. So practically the socioeconomic status is also going to play an important role in this one. And so the better off you are, or the more well off you are practically, the more you're going to be likely to use the internet. Gender, they have also noticed a gender gap between that. Men are more likely than women both to access and to use the internet. The gender divide, however, is narrowing. So nowadays, of course, females have started to do intellectual work as well. And of course, now that in every household there is internet access at home, females who are household ladies, and they are taking part in or taking care of the children practically, and they are the housewives. They are also using the internet. So practically the gender gap is narrowing, but there is still a significance in favor of men. They will be more likely to use the internet than females. Life stage. The internet penetration rate among younger people is absolutely higher, much higher than, life stage will mean age, but we have mentioned that, than amongst older people. Students get online via school connections as well, and I'm not sure if you remember this one. This is like a school, and we did have this one as well when I was really young. We didn't even have one computer per head. When I was going to high school, I went to an 8-year school, and so I started at the age of 10. And when I started at the age of 10, there were the 2 or 3 of us sitting around one computer on an informatics class, we called it. And I remember we were doing. Well, I think they're playing cards anyway, so that's what we were doing ourselves. But yeah, the developing countries and the life stages, of course, will have an impact. Region will also have a great effect on users or non-users. Geographic location also affects access and usage of the internet. Of course, there are some countries which have got high penetration and there are some countries which don't, but there is a large difference between the capital and the kind of rural areas as well. So the rural areas will have less not less success, but less user kind of statistics according to studies. How would you bridge the gap? Now, I'm asking, of course, you as well, but not many people have actually managed to bridge the gap. So, of course, there is no good or bad answer. I mean, there is a good answer, but of course, there are no bad initiatives. Let's take a look at what they have tried to do so far and how far they have got. First of all, they wanted to get the hardware in place. This was coming from the British Council. I got the data from their their database. And for sure, it was, as the British Council was sharing it on their website too, that it's hard for the West to imagine the excitement at a primary school, which was in Kenya. It was the Maralal primary school, and they were getting the hardware in place. They were kind of bringing a bunch of laptops into this primary school, and 2,000 children gathered in the Kenyan morning sun in order to assemble together and see the computers arrive. They were super, super excited about it. It was a bunch of second-hand laptops that they brought there. This is the problem, ladies and gents. So an average high school in Kenya, for example, looks like this. Sorry, it's a primary school. It looks like this. And because there is no electricity provided, because some classes are done under the sky, and there is no, it was just, the problem is deeper than just bringing there a bunch of laptops. And it was not helping much, unfortunately, because in some places electricity is a problem. Or in some places, you bring the laptop there, but there is no internet. So you can just, give them some mobile internet, but then it's, that one exceeds after a while. Number two, creating the first generation of digital elders. So the problem was that they brought a bunch of laptops there, but there was nobody to use it. Okay, so the teachers themselves were not literate and have no digital qualifications, because that was the first time for them as well to see it. And these teachers who show interest in the computers shall have a digital training. So they kind of realize that some sort of, like, the creation of the first society of digital elders would be needed. And this new generation of, the word digital is just so irritating by now, sorry about that. So the first generation of elders in this sphere would be needed. So they started training programs for the teachers, because they realized that bringing the hardware in place was not enough. Securing the connectivity. Of course, this is what I mentioned, that the penetration of the internet has to increase. And they were saying, the British Council said that through a partnership between the British Council and Kenya, they succeeded in securing a router for the school, giving them 8 gigabytes of data per month. Now, it seems very little. It's nice, of course, 8 gigabytes. I think we use that in a heartbeat. But still, it was the first time, and it was an initiative, and it was a nice initiative, to be fair, and they wanted to secure connectivity to them. So it's practically 8 gigabytes per month for this single primary school, and that's how they started off. Fighting the language barrier. So, of course, they realized that the English language was not an option for so many places like that, developing places like that, and developers have been trying to create the semantic web. Now, in so many countries, I'm not sure if you have seen it, and I'm going to show you the synchronous translator. That's where we're going to stop today. I'm going to show you in Teams. The Skype synchronous translator is something that you start talking to the other person on the other end of Skype, and Skype will straight away, let's say I talk in Hungarian, and Skype will straight away translate my Hungarian into German on the other edge. This is like so that the English language learning would not be completely needed. That's how Skype has started this initiative, the synchronous translator, which is while talking, it's going to be translating for the other person. I'm going to show it to you on Teams as well. I do have a bunch of excitement about it. For example, whether it will work, that some robot will synchronously translate. I say a sentence and then it loudly translates after I finish the sentence. So practically, I'm wondering if it works. It has been an initiative for a while now, for a bunch of years now, and it's still not working well because the language is, you can see on Google Translate as well that it's not perfect, at least not in Hungarian, because it's a language which belongs to no other language family. And I'm wondering what you think about your own mother language, whether Google translates it well to English or not. And on the other hand, I'm wondering if it's not going to kind of create some sort of a lack of wanting to learn different languages. I do believe it will. So you can tell that the Anglo-Saxon people who are native speakers of English, they don't tend to speak a second language purely because they're not forced to, purely because they don't need to, because their language is going to be spoken everywhere else in the world. Just the same with the Russians a bunch of decades ago, that the Russian was the compulsory language in many parts of the world, and learning a second language was not really needed, because in the post-socialist countries, like in Hungary, for example, we did have compulsory Russian learning, but in many other post-socialist areas as well. I do believe that it will lead to some sort of laziness if I can just talk in my mother language and there is a synchronous translator program which straight away translates everything. I think it's... I'm not sure if it happens or not, but I think some sort of laziness will take place if it ever kicks in. But without English, I don't really think that you can get by nowadays, so we shall see. That's practically all about the digital divide for now, ladies and gents. Let's move into Teams and talk about all this, and I will show you the Skype translator as well. And thank you so much for your attention, and see you in a bit. Bye-bye!